All right, fifth grade. Today we are going to continue working on our playing card portraits. And last week or Monday when you came to art, a lot of you had finished tracing both sides of your portraits. Your shoulders should meet somewhere in the center of your paper, making your clothing all one big space. And just to review, last week we did, after connecting those, go in and draw first a center dividing line to divide the top half from the bottom half, and then some additional lines to sort of divide that clothing into spaces. Another thing we worked on was adding extras. So things like sleeves, hands, props, and also the larger version of your symbol somewhere inside the frame of your portrait. Now, I've drawn some of those extras in the top section of my portrait, but not in the bottom section. So I would want to make sure that I go through and add the same or really similar version of what I drew here. So I want to make sure I do that first. And then today, after you have everything drawn in, we're going to work on adding in Sharpie lines. And then while we're adding the Sharpie lines, we are also going to draw in some of these patterns. When you draw your extras, especially if you're drawing, some of you drew like a crown or a hat on your head, or you drew a hand, and you might have a prop in your hand. I drew a paintbrush on mine. So anywhere that you have overlapping lines, and that might include even the border, if your head kind of went over the border, make sure you take time to go through and erase out those overlapping lines. So I'm just drawing in a paintbrush to match the one that I have on the bottom half. And they don't have to be a perfect match, but they should be pretty close. So at this point, once I have my dividing lines, my two portraits, my small symbol, and my larger symbol, and you don't have to place it in this spot, by the way. You can place it anywhere you have room. You've drawn your extras with your props. Once you have everything kind of cleaned up and erased out, then we're going to trace everything that we have so far with Sharpie, including the borders, the letters, everything we've drawn. That's why you want to take a few minutes to make sure you've erased overlapping lines so you don't accidentally trace those. Once you finish outlining all of your pencil lines, we're going to take a few minutes with the large erasers to just erase out any pencil lines that are still showing. And you want to be careful when you're doing this not to wrinkle your paper. So it helps if you keep one hand near the eraser flat on your paper to keep it from wrinkling up on you. And I'm just kind of spot erasing. And if I notice that I erase a line that I didn't outline, I'll want to go back and draw that line in. So kind of keep your eyes peeled while you're doing this step. All right, once you've finished erasing all of your pencil lines, and I did a really thorough job, we're going to start adding our patterns into this center space where the clothing is. And for this part, I think you'll want to use the handouts as a guide to get ideas for different kinds of patterns that you can draw. Now for this part, you can use the Sharpie pen, the fine point Sharpie pen, or the Sharpie marker, especially if you might notice on some of these handouts, there's a lot of solid black in some of the patterns. And if you wanted to add that in, you would probably want to use the marker instead of the pen. Also at this point, we're going to start adding some color, and our color is going to be really minimal. On a traditional playing card like these here, generally the colors are primary colors only, so red, white, and blue. I'm not going to make you use primary colors, but you are going to have to choose 3 colors and only 3 colors to use on this project. Now, if somebody else wants the same colors as you, make sure that you're sharing them. I'm going to pick out 3 colors. I would recommend, picking at least 1 warm and 1 cool, although it is totally up to you. These are my 3 colors. So these 3 colors and my black pens are all I'm going to use going forward. And basically what I'm going to do is try to match patterns in the corresponding shapes here. So if I draw stripes in this shape, I'm going to repeat that and draw stripes in the other shape as well. If things don't match up perfectly, because we did just kind of freehand draw these sections and shapes here, that's okay, but do your best to match them up. You might also think about what things you want to color. So for sure, we're going to color your letter and your symbols. Those things need to get colored. But as far as the portrait goes, it's really up to you what you want to color. And even the examples that you have at your table are going to vary. On some of these, the hair is a color. On some of them, the face has color. On some of them, only the clothing has color. On some of them, there's really minimal, there's no color at all on the head or the hair or any of the hands, and the only color you see here is on the clothing and the symbols. So I'll leave it up to you guys where you want to add that color, but do make sure that you're adding it really minimally. So we're not coloring the entire portrait, we're coloring letters and symbols, and then select pieces. You might think about, what do you want to emphasize? If I want the prop in my hand to be emphasized, then I might color a lot of that. If I want my hair to be emphasized, or if you drew a crown or a hat, or maybe the patterns in the clothing. So we'll spend some time working on that.